Today we're talking about the interesting and surprising factors that influence how well or not well our drums, especially our toms, resonate. We'll look at tuning and drum isolation, and then we'll examine a big factor that you may not have considered. Hey everybody, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer, the channel all about teaching you the non-glamorous drumming skills that'll actually help you to become a better player. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So today we're really just talking about these three main categories, tuning, isolation, and the one final thing that I think is pretty interesting that affect how well our drums resonate. Now we're mainly talking about toms today because it's always the toms that we really want to resonate. Yeah, we can, maybe we want our snare to resonate too, maybe we want some resonance from the kick, but a lot of times this discussion really centers on the toms. So that's what we're talking about today, and the principles that we cover here will apply to other drums as well. Number one, tune for resonance. And really that's as simple as tune the resonant heads to provide the tone and the resonance that you want from your drums. If you ever take your resonant heads off and you just tune up the batter heads, you'll find that there pretty much is no resonance and that it's very dead. If you want a dead sound, that's the way to do it. But you want to use those resonant heads to interact with the batter heads in such a way as to bring out the best tone and resonance of the drums. But number two, and this is really the big core of what we're talking about today, make sure that you've got your toms isolated from the floor or from whatever they're mounted on, because that plays a huge factor in whether or not they just sound like a dull thud when you hit them or whether or not they sing out for 3 seconds. So my rack tom, I like to set it in a snare basket just because I can get it positioned exactly where I want it that way. It's one more stand to weigh down my hardware bag, but lately it's been worth it. I'd rather do that than mount it off of the kick drum. But when you put a rack tom in a snare basket, that's going to absorb a lot of the vibration, and that stand is going to keep the drum shell itself from actually resonating well. So I took some of this pink insulation foam I have. I think we bought this to add some extra insulation to a windowsill or something one time. That's pretty much what it's for. You can pick this up at like Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware or something. And so I took a strip of this, probably about 1 foot long, and I just wrapped it around the 3 rubber ends of the basket and then just surrounded that with gaff tape. So basically we have these little pillows literally on each arm of the basket. So when I set the drum on there, it's not clamping onto the drum is just setting on these pillows. Now for my floor tom, of course it came with the standard rubber floor tom feet, but the feet that I have on my floor tom, I think they're made by Pearl, and they look like they wouldn't actually make that big of a difference, but they really do. And they isolate the drum just well enough from the floor that no matter what surface you have the drum sitting on, it's going to resonate so much better. It's really like a night and day difference. So for the rack tom, we've insulated the basket stand. For the floor tom, we've insulated the feet. So let's listen to them with and without that isolation so you can hear how much of a difference this is. This is huge. But now for point number 3, the one that you might not have thought as much about. The room that you have your drum set up in can have a huge effect on the drum sound, especially the toms. Now most of the time the room that your drums are in isn't going to directly affect the way that the drum itself resonates, though it could. A lot of the times the room will bring out certain characteristics of those drums and you'll hear them in different ways depending on the rooms. The big obvious one is if you've got your drums in a closet and you hit your toms, it's going to be a pretty short, thin sound. But you put your drums in a giant auditorium and you hit your toms, you hear all this depth and low end, and the sound lasts for like 6 seconds because literally the room is reverberating, and so you're hearing the drums resonating within the room. And sometimes in sort of small and medium-sized rooms, the rooms might actually resonate a certain frequency and bring out certain frequencies from those drums. And so depending on the drums, they might literally sound better in one room than they do in another. Now, the best way I could compare this here at my house was by listening to the drums down in the basement and then moving them to my living room. Now, my living room is basically the same size as the basement space that I use, but it's a more live room. There's hardwood floors, a rug, some furniture, but the big difference is that the wall is drywall and drywall on the ceiling. Whereas the basement, we've got a bunch of insulation and different surfaces because it's unfinished, so the ceiling has the studs and everything, so the sound can get more absorbed by the room. All that to say, the living room is a liver room, so let's listen to the toms. We're going to compare the isolated toms, basement versus living room. You can see if you can hear a difference, if you hear more resonance. So check this out. It's going to be kind of subtle, so be sure to listen through good headphones or good speakers. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hey, I hope today's video has helped you diagnose any resonance problems with your toms. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and become a fellow non-glamorous drummer. Thanks guys for watching. I will see you next week.